Have you seen Road of the King's latest OCG meta breakdown? It's interesting. I have not, I think. Let me check when it came out. Oh, it's from today. Okay, yeah, we can check it out. Hold up. I'm interested in that. I didn't know it came out. Oh. Ooh, okay. I'm seeing some stuff. It isn't that interesting. I mean, okay. It's interesting from some standpoints, what I'm seeing here. So first thing that I find interesting, or I guess what you mean is like, okay, what's not interesting is that it's kind of the same decks as we would expect. Like we were expecting Fire King, Snake Eye, Yubel, Tenpai. What I didn't expect was the order that they would come in. Like Tenpai Dragon almost double the number of Fire King or Snake Eye. Like literally this report has Tenpai Dragon as it's like as popular in topping decks than Snake Eye and Snake Eye Fire King combined, right? Does this include YCS? Does this include the YCS? Maybe that's why. It'd be weird if they included the YCS because that was best of one. Does not include the YCS. Okay, nice. Okay, nice. This, honestly, this entire Tenpai thing, this entire Tenpai situation almost makes me want to drop a Jesse Cotton Mystic Mine copy pasta, because I find it so hard to believe that in the OCG, Tenpai is that successful and people just fail to prepare for it. With all due respect, am I right? Like, why do they let them keep getting away with it? How can they keep getting away with it? I don't get it. The deck does get a lot better with the new cards. Yes, it's true. That's like the I guess let's call them the yellow one is pretty strong. They even play the little Pokey Draco retrain. Yeah. Dude, what is Curry Photon doing here? What does Curry Photon even do? That is Curry Photon. Yeah, it's Curry Photon. Hold on. Curry Photon. Quick effect. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard and pay 2,000 life points. You take no damage this turn. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send a Photon monster from your hand to the graveyard, except Curry Photon. Add this card from your graveyard to your hand. You can only use this effect of Curry Photon once per turn. So this is a threatening roar. This is a threatening roar that you can't red reboot, I guess. Is the idea. Kind of get it. But this is the thing, like this is what I'm not, this is what I don't understand. Whenever I see, literally, whenever I see meta decks from the OCG that are not Tenpai, right? Like specifically the Snake Eye decks, most of the time, the only thing that people are really doing for Tenpai is they put one Fucho or one Lyrilusk Nightingale into their side deck. How is that? Like, it blows my mind how that is the maximum that you're willing to commit to a deck that's literally putting up these numbers. It's I can't, like, I don't understand. Like, how are you shipping this deck list and you're like, yep, that's sufficient? Because let me tell you why it's not sufficient. Because in order to make Fucho, you have to be able to play the game with your Snake Eye deck. You have to resolve Snake Eye Ash, basically, or resolve Bonfire to get to a rank 1 Xyz. And it's not only that, it's not like Fucho wins you the game on its own, because you also have to be able to play the game next turn, right? And let me tell you something about Tenpai. This deck plays like 15 hand traps. Like, you're not guaranteed to get to the Fucho. You're not like, it's not guaranteed. You also need follow-up. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's not even enough to make Fucho. If you get to make Fucho because they don't hand trap your Snake Eye Ash or Bonfire, you have to like set up for next turn somehow through their more hand traps. And also because you're making Fucho, which is not really much of an end board, you're not even like stopping them from doing anything, so they can like still set up like they can make their whatever they play. What is it they play? They play like seals. They can Ruddy Rose your graveyard. Like they can they're free to go. They played this batter here. I don't know if they set that up, like whatever, right? But whatever they do, it's like it's gonna be seals, Ruddy Rose, Black Rose Moonlight potentially tagging out into something, like, you know, it's like, this is not enough, dude. This is just not enough to beat Tenpai. And like, it's been weeks now that Tenpai is not the most represented deck, but always like 10 to 15%, right? And literally they haven't changed their approach in their side deck at all. It's like, I'm just gonna side a Fucho and call it a day. And then people act surprised that Tenpai shoots up to over 20%. It's like, it's ignorant. It's legit ignorant. Maybe Tenpai is just better than you thought. I think Tenpai is a strong deck. The fact that I don't like Tenpai does not mean I think it's weak. But it still is much more manageable if you are willing to commit to it in deck building. Like, I'm scared of Tenpai as well, because even if you put stuff for it in your deck, you're not guaranteed to draw it. Like, right, if they let me go first after siding and I don't draw my Threatening Roar, D-Barrier, Simul, Archfiends, whatever I do to prepare for Tenpai, if I don't draw it, it's not going to be enough, right? And even if I do draw my my D-Barrier or whatever it is, right? If they stop me from playing with hand traps, I might not I might have to stop them for multiple turns, basically, right? And it might not work out. It's a strong deck, right? Like, but ignorance here is a big factor. It's a very, very big factor that this is what people are doing. And this is what people have been doing for weeks. Like, if I go back to the last metagame report, right? Tenpai was not the most represented deck here. It was Fire King and Snake Eye were putting up almost the same numbers. But look at this. Right? It's a Nightingale, and I guess you can put in anti-spell. Sure. Anti-spell is also good when they make you start. Fine. But it's like it's so little. It's so little. This one has Thrust and D-Barrier, which is okay. And Lyrlust Nightingale and Ghost Ogre. This one's alright. This one's alright. But it's like, most of the time when I'm seeing these lists, it's like most of these cards are not even dedicated for Tenpai. They're not even dedicated for Tenpai. They're only like literally doing one rank 1 Xyz and then they think it's enough. They're not even willing to main deck it, right? For the chance that you lose the dice roll and your opponent makes you go first, so you know it's Tenpai. They're not even willing to put this card into their main deck when Tenpai is literally in this one the second most represented deck. It's legit. This is nothing but ignorant. But Tenpai is far from dominating the first spot. What is this then? What is this then? This is the result of ignorance, literally. Nothing else. So, long story short, Tenpai is a good deck. It is a good deck, just like Fluon de Reese, for example, was a good deck for a long time. And it gets even better with the introduction of Infinite Forbidden and some more support cards, like the new main deck monster and the new Stratos and all that kind of stuff. It's a good deck, but it's much more manageable if you actually are willing to prepare for the decks that are in the format. What is that Karibo card? This is like discard it, pay 2,000. You don't take battle damage this turn. I think they only play it because Red Reboot is legal. So it's a Threatening Roar that can't be Red Rebooted, basically. That's why they're playing it, I think. I think that's the only reason. I don't see a reason to play that if Red Reboot isn't in the game. What are the best cards against Tenpai in your opinion? I really like Simul Archfiends. So I think I like two kinds of cards for Tenpai. I like D-Barrier and Simul Archfiends. However, between the two, I kind of, if you're only talking the Tenpai matchup, I like Simul Archfiends a little bit more. Obviously, Dimensional Barrier has the advantage that you can side it into a bunch of matchups as well. Like, you can side it into Hurley, into branded, into all kinds of stuff, right? Chimera decks, whatever, right? The problem with D-Barrier is that, and the thing is, I have to figure out how big of a problem that really is, but most of the Tenpai decks are playing ways to put on 8,000 damage through Dimensional Barrier. Obviously, whenever they try to do that, that usually loses to 1 or 2 interruptions. But the problem is, with the way that Tenpai decks are being played, right, with this many hand traps, it's not guaranteed that you can put up interruptions, right? So sometimes, like this one, Doolittle Chimera is a link 2 that boosts every fire monster by 500 attack, and that sometimes lets you OTK through D-Barrier. That technically could also work through Simul Archfiends though. But like, some people have been doing Promethean Princess and Zelantis stuff to beat D-Barrier, and that sort of stuff does not work against Simul Archfiends, for example, right? Don't you wait for the battle phase to use D-Barrier? Well, I mean, you do if you don't get Feather Dustered or Lightning Stormed, which is a card that most Tenpai decks play. That's the thing, you can't rely on... It's not as simple. Like, it's not as simple as just, oh, well, I'm going to use this card in the perfect spot because surely my opponent is not going to have a way to force my card, right? Like, in the TCG, most of the people literally main deck Storm and Duster. So, just keeping it to the battle phase is not sufficient. It's not a sufficient plan. So... Funnily enough, even though these cards are lingering floodgates, right? They are they still require you to pair them up with other interruptions. Like you don't feel safe with a D-Barrier unless you can play the game or have another card against the matchup. And the same can be true for Simul Archfiends if they play Doodle Chimera, right? And so one approach is to just floodgate them, right? And I guess the only card that actually completely keeps you safe would be Threatening Roar, right? Threatening Roar, in theory, just makes it so I mean, you cannot die if you Threatening Roar. The problem with Threatening Roar, I suppose, is the same as with D-Barrier or Simul Archfiends, is that if you get hand trapped by Tenpai Dragon, if you're not able to play the game yourself, it doesn't matter that you survive a turn. Basically, right? Because they still make like seals or whatever, right? And if you can't play through their hand traps, then skipping a turn doesn't really matter, right? And to play around that, I think the best solution for that is to not try to floodgate them for a turn, right? Because in a scenario where you get hand trapped a lot and you can't play the game yourself for 1 or 2 turns, skipping one of their turns is not the best way to do it, right? You can still play those cards, they're still fine. But another way to do it would be to actually play, to make sure that you actually get rid of the stuff that they're doing, right? Like cards like, I'm referring to cards like Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit to actually get rid of the field spell. I'm referring to cards like Cosmic Cyclone to get rid of the field spell. Like actually interacting with the stuff that they're doing in order to make sure that if they stop you from playing, because Tenpai is a deck with very few engine cards as well, right? Especially before they get the new yellow dragon and the little Stratos guy. The Tenpai deck literally has like 15 engine cards, right? So if you Cosmic Cyclone their field spell, there's a very high chance they might not be able to pull it off, right? And so I think that is another approach that you can take, right? That because even though cards like Impermanence, Nibiru, and Veiler, which are the most common non-engine cards at the moment, are not great against Tenpai, cards like Ghost Ogre, Ash, Cosmic, DD Crow, those kind of cards are completely fine against Tenpai, right? They actually give you a fair shot of preventing a certain amount of stuff that they can do, and you could very well rely on drawing some of those cards rather than trying to floodgate them out of the game, right? Thoughts on Vados versus Tenpai? Vados is good against Tenpai. The question is if you want to play Vados in general over something like Ghost Ogre, but Vados is solid against Tenpai. I don't think there's anything else to really talk about here. I mean, Momento, I wonder if they include a Memento list. That'd be interesting to see. Yubel is still going strong in this format. I expect Yubel to be showing up in the TCG as well as soon as we get this fusion monster. I mean, I've said this a couple times now already. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but Yugioh is already putting up some results in the TCG, but I think as soon as we get the fusion, it's going to be a real top tier contender. I don't like it that much at the moment, but I think it's going to get a lot better when we get the fusion. It is playing the Fiendsmith engine as well. I don't know how vital that is. I don't know if the deck could function without that, but it probably could. Oh, they don't have the Memento included. That's unfortunate. What is this spell card? What is this spell card they're using in the side deck here? I don't recognize this one. Blue Angel Tears. Oh, I remember. What was that again? Blue Angel of Tears. Angel of Blue Tears. Target a face-up monster on the field. Its controller's opponent takes damage equal to the number of cards in their hand times 200, then negate that target's effect until the end of this turn. If effect damage is inflicted, you can banish this card from your grave, set a normal trap directly from your hand or deck. If set from the hand, it can be activated this turn. You can only use one Angel of Blue Tears. What's the point of that? You Beatrice, send it. But then how is effect damage inflicted if you send it with Beatrice? The play is explained above. Okay. Angel of Blue Tears in the side deck is used with Beatrice as a way to access powerful normal traps. Beatrice effect can be activated by detaching Fiendsmith Lacrimosa as Xyz material to send Angel of Blue Tears. Then Lacrimosa was sent to... Oh, they did detach a material that does damage. Okay, okay. Shuffling one other Light Fiend from graveyard into extra deck, inflict 1200 damage. Then, okay, I see. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty powerful. I could see people doing that. As cringe as it is, I could see people doing that. Memento list here. Memento list here. Okay, they play the new fusion monster. Yeah, they definitely do play the new fusion monster. Okay. 3 of the fusions, 3 horse, 1 combined, 3 dark blade, 3 witch, 1 of the little Karibo guy, 1 key, 1 goblin. This is also new, isn't it? This little guy. I haven't seen this one before. So it's like this and this is new. What is this? Is this Bone Party? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to try out Memento. Like I said, I wanted to bring Memento to locals today potentially, but I don't have all of the cards. I noticed this morning, unfortunately. I ordered some of them, but I missed some of them as well. So, especially, I don't think I have the Herald link, which is unfortunate because every single list for Memento that I've seen uses that card. So, yeah, honestly. This is it's an interesting metagame report because like it literally the Tenpai discussion I find interesting. I find even though Tenpai as a deck I don't find that interesting, the dynamics it introduces into the game I find very worth talking about. And the literally I think this is it's showcasing I don't know. I think it's not very good deck building to ignore Tenpai to this extent. And I think this is the main reason why this deck is jumping from like 10% in usage in recent metagame reports to 21. They might plan for it more for the next one. I mean, yeah, it's literally, it's a very comparable situation. It's funny how these things repeat themselves in Yu-Gi-Oh! And people keep making the wrong calls over and over and over again. Like it was the same thing with Mystic Mind. For literally like 2 years in a row. It was the same with Mystic Mind because people would play Mystic Mind, people would put outs to Mystic Mind in their deck, people would stop playing Mystic Mind, people would remove outs to Mystic Mind from their deck, and so on and so forth. And it's like Tenpai Dragon, I feel like at the moment, both in the TCG and in the OCG, is popular enough that it warrants slots in your side deck. You don't have to put cards in your side deck that are only good against Tenpai, like Threatening Roar, right? But you definitely need a certain number of cards in your side deck, probably more than just 3 or whatever, right? And more than a single rank 1 Xyz, please, in your Snake Eye decks, right? You need a certain number of cards for Tenpai, and you need a good game plan. for that matchup. It's popular enough to warrant that. 100%.